The rain was not soft. It was angry. It hit the street like tiny hammers, hard and cold. In the middle of this cold, wet world, I saw blue and red lights flashing. They painted the dark alley in colors of fear. A police car, 2 officers, and a boy. He could not have been more than 12. His face was pale, his hands behind his back. The click of handcuffs was loud, louder than the rain. My heart stopped. Then, from the shadows, a voice boomed. It was rough, like gravel in pain. "Let him go!" It was a shout. It was a command. A man stepped out of the darkness. His clothes were torn. His beard was long. He was the man everyone saw but no one looked at. The homeless man from the alley. And he was walking right toward the police. I stood there, soaked to the bone. The rain did not care if I was alive or dead. It just fell. My name is Arthur, though no one had used that name in years. I was just him, the shadow in the alley. But tonight, something inside me woke up. I saw the boy, though I did not know his name then. I just saw a child. He was small, trembling, his eyes wide with a terror I knew too well. The officers were big, covered in black raincoats. They looked like giants, and the boy looked like a lost lamb. The cold metal of the cuffs snapped shut. That sound. It broke something inside me. It was wrong. All of it was wrong. My feet moved before my brain told them to. My legs were weak from hunger, stiff from the cold ground I called a bed. But they moved. A fire started in my chest, a hot, angry feeling I had not felt in a long, long time. It burned away the fog in my head. It burned away the cold. Who did they think they were? He was just a boy. A boy who looked like he had not eaten a good meal in weeks. I knew that look. I saw it in the mirror, in the broken glass I used to shave. "Let him go!" The words tore out of my throat. They sounded strange, loud, and full of a power I did not know I still had. The 2 officers stopped. They turned around, slow, like they could not believe what they were hearing. Their hands went to their belts. Their faces were hard, hidden by the dark and the falling rain. "Stay back, old man," one of them shouted. His voice was firm. "This is police business. Go back to your box." He pointed at me, but his eyes were on my hands, making sure I had nothing in them. I had nothing. I had not had anything in years. Except for this feeling. This sudden, fierce need to protect. I kept walking, my bare feet splashing in the puddles. I did not care about them. I only saw the boy. The boy, Michael, turned his head. His eyes met mine. For just 1 second, the fear in his eyes changed. It was not just fear anymore. It was confusion. Why was I here? Why was this dirty, broken man yelling at the police for him? He did not know me. I did not know him. But in that one look, something passed between us. It was a silent message. "I see you. You are not alone." He was so young. He reminded me of someone. A face from a dream. A face from a life that felt like it belonged to another person. A small, perfect face I had tried so hard to forget. The memory was like a ghost, touching my mind. A small hand in mine. A laugh in a warm park. The smell of clean clothes and soap. It was so painful that I almost stopped. That life was dead. That man was dead. I was Arthur. No, I was just nothing. A ghost in a wet alley. But the boy's eyes. They were the same. The same color, the same shape. It was a coincidence. It had to be. The world was full of coincidences. But my heart did not think so. My heart was pounding like a drum, telling me this was not a dream. This was real. And I had to do something. I said, "Let him go." I shouted again. I was closer now. I could see the patch on the officer's arm. I could see the rain dripping from his hat. He's just a kid. What did he do? Steal an apple? The second officer, the taller one, stepped toward me. He was angry. "Sir, you are interfering with an arrest. You need to leave. Or you'll be joining him." He put his hand on my chest, ready to push me. I was weak. I was small. A small push would send me flying into the brick wall. But I did not move. I stared past his hand, right into his eyes. I had nothing to lose. Nothing left in this world. Except this moment. "What's the charge?" I asked. My voice was calm now. The fire was still there, but it was cold. Hard like a... The officer was surprised. He expected me to curse, to spit, to be crazy. He did not expect me to be calm. He was caught shoplifting. From the corner store, the first officer said. He sounded a little tired. Now move along. Shoplifting. My eyes went back to the boy. He was thin. His clothes were too big for him. He was hungry. He was just hungry. And for that they were putting him in chains. Like an animal. A cold, dark anger, different from the hot fire, settled over me. You're arresting a hungry child. For food. I did not ask. I said it. It was a fact. It hung in the air, heavy and ugly. The rain seemed to get quieter, just for a second. The blue and red lights kept flashing, making us all look like characters in a silent, sad movie. The officer who had his hand on my chest, he hesitated. He looked at his partner. He looked at the boy. He looked back at me. My clothes were rags. My hair was matted. But my eyes were not the eyes of a madman. They were the eyes of someone who knew exactly what he was saying. They were the eyes of someone who understood. Then a small voice cut through. I'm sorry. Who was the boy? Michael. His voice was shaking. Tears were mixing with the rain on his cheeks. I was just getting it from my sister. She's sick. We didn't have any food. He was not talking to the cops, that he was talking to me. He was explaining himself to me, the homeless man. In that moment he was not a criminal. He was just a brother. He was just a boy trying to help. The officer's hand dropped from my chest. He took a deep breath. He looked tired. So very tired of the world. And in his eyes I saw something new. The rain continued to fall. No one moved. The handcuffs were still on. The officers were still cops. I was still a homeless man. And Michael was still a boy who stole. But everything had changed. The air was thick with questions. My shout had stopped time. It had forced all of us to look. To really see each other. The officer who had pushed me sighed. Old man, he said, his voice softer now. You don't know this kid. You don't know the story. Why do you care so much? I looked at Michael. His eyes were locked on mine, full of a desperate, fragile hope. I looked back at the cop. Because, I said, someone has to. Why did I care? The officer's question hung in the air, heavier than the rain. I did not have an answer. Not one I could give him. But as I looked at the boy, at Michael, the world around me began to melt away. The flashing lights, the cold street, the smell of wet trash, it all faded. In its place, I saw another world. A ghost of a world. A life I had buried so deep I thought it was gone forever. It started with the suit. I could almost feel it on my skin. Not these wet, torn rags, but smooth, expensive wool. A dark blue suit. A crisp white shirt. A silk tie, perfectly knotted. My hands were not dirty and cracked. They were clean. They held a leather briefcase. They signed papers. I remembered an office. A big office, high up in a tall building. The whole wall was glass, looking out over a city that sparkled like a box of jewels. My name was on the door. Arthur Pendleton, so. People listened when I spoke. My voice was not a rough shout in an alley. It was a calm, low voice that made decisions. Big decisions. People smiled at me. They called me Mr. Pendleton. I had a large desk, made of dark, polished wood. On that desk there was a picture. A silver frame. A woman smiling, her hair like honey in the sun. Beside her, a little boy, laughing, missing his 2 front teeth. My family. My life. The memory shifted. I was not in the office. I was home. The smell of baking bread and roasting chicken filled the air. It was warm. Laughter. I could hear laughter. It was my wife, Sarah. She was laughing at something I said. And the boy, my son. He was running, his little feet pounding on the hardwood floor. He was chasing a small, fluffy dog. He would run and fall, then get up, his cheeks red, and laugh. That laugh. It was the sweetest sound in the world. It was the sound of safety. The sound of love. The sound of a life that made sense. A life I had built with my own 2 hands. a life I was proud of. How did that man, Arthur Pendleton, become this ghost? The memories were sharp, like broken glass. They cut me. One day, the desk was not there. The office was empty. The people who smiled at me turned their heads. They whispered. It happened so fast. A bad decision. A risk I should not have taken. I thought I was smart. I thought I was untouchable. I thought I could fix it. But I could not. The money was gone. All of it. The sparkling city lights went out, one by one. The house was sold. The silver frame was packed in a box. I had failed. I had failed them. The worst part was not the hunger. It was not the cold. It was the shame. The heavy, crushing weight of shame. I could not look my wife in the eyes. I could not face my son. I had promised them everything, and I had given them nothing. Less than nothing. I had given them my failure. So I ran. One night I just walked away. I told myself it was for them. That they would be better off without me, without the man who lost it all. I walked until my expensive shoes had holes in them. I walked until my suit was just rags. I walked until Mr. Pendleton was dead. And only Arthur, the shadow, was left. I tried to forget. For years I had worked hard to forget. I drank. I slept in the day and walked at night. I pushed the memories down, 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 into a dark, locked box in my mind. The face in the silver frame. I blurred it. The sound of the laugh. I silenced it. It was the only way to survive. To feel the pain was to die. And I did not want to die. I just wanted to stop. To be numb. To be nothing. And for a long time it worked. I was a ghost. I was invisible. I felt nothing. Until tonight. Until this boy. I looked at Michael. Really looked at him. It was not just that he was a child. It was not just that he was hungry. It was his face. The shape of his eyes. The way his hair curled, even when it was wet with rain. It was the small mole right above his left eyebrow. My wife, Sarah, had that same mole. And my son, David, he had it too. It was a perfect, tiny mark. A family mark. My heart. I thought it had turned to stone. But it started to beat again. The painful, slow, heavy beat. Thump, thump, thump. It could not be. It was impossible. The world was too big. Life was too cruel. David, I whispered. The name felt strange on my tongue. Like a word from a long-lost language. The boy, Michael, looked at me. What? He asked. His voice was small. The officer heard me. What did you say? He asked, taking a step closer. He looked confused now. The anger was gone, replaced by a deep curiosity. He saw the change in my face. He saw the shock. He saw the ghost of Arthur Pendleton starting to wake up. I was not just a crazy old man anymore. I was someone who had just seen the impossible. David, I said again louder. My son's name was David. My son. I had a son. He would be, how old would he be now? I had lost track of time. The years had blurred into one long, gray nightmare. But this boy, Michael, he looked so much like him. Not just the mole. The way he stood, scared but proud. The stubborn set of his chin. It was like looking at a picture from the past, come to life. Could it be? It was a trick of the rain. A trick of my broken mind. My son was gone. That life was gone. I had made sure of that. I had walked away. I had erased myself. I had no right to see him. No right to remember. But my heart would not listen. It kept beating that painful rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. It was shouting at me. This was not a coincidence. This was not a dream. This was real. This boy, being arrested for stealing food, had my son's face. He had my wife's mole. The fire in my chest from before, it was gone. In its place was something else. Something bigger. Something terrifying. It was hope. A tiny, fragile spark. A spark that I thought had died years ago. A spark that this boy, in this dark, wet alley, had just lit again. And I knew in that moment, I could not let him go. I would not. My name is Michael. I am 12. And I was so scared. The rain was cold, but I was sweating. The policeman's hands were so big. When he snapped the metal cuffs on my wrists, they felt like ice. I wanted to cry, But I bit my lip. Mom always told me to be strong. "You're the man of the house now, Michael," she would say. But a man of the house would not be here, in the rain, being arrested. A man of the house would not be a thief. I looked at the ground, at the dirty water splashing on my sneakers. They had holes in them. I could feel the cold puddle on my toes. I had failed. I had failed my mom. I had failed my little sister, Mia. It was all for Mia. She was sick. Not just a cold. She was pale and she did not want to play. She just lay on the sofa, covered in our only good blanket. The doctor said she needed to eat. Good food. Fruits and soup. But the cupboards were empty. We had half a box of cereal. That was it. Mom worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses, but this week, her boss did not pay her on time. She sat at the kitchen table last night, her head in her hands. She was not crying, but she was making a little sound, a choked sound, and it scared me more than yelling. I saw the empty refrigerator. It was like a big, white, empty box. I did not know what else to do. I waited until Mom fell asleep in her chair. I took my jacket. I promised myself it would be just this once. Just some bread. Maybe an orange. Something for Mia. I walked to the corner store. The lights were so bright inside. It was warm. It smelled like fresh bread. My stomach hurt. I was so hungry. I saw the bread, soft and white. I saw a bright orange, round and perfect. I put them inside my jacket. My heart was beating so fast, it felt like a bird was trapped in my chest, trying to get out. I did not even look at the candy. I just wanted the food. I tried to walk out. I just tried to walk normal. But I must have looked scared. The man at the counter, Mr. Patel, he saw me. He always smiled at me before. But he was not smiling now. "Hey kid," he shouted. "What's in your jacket?" I froze. I could not move. He grabbed my arm, and I was so scared the orange fell out. It rolled on the floor. Bright orange against the dirty white tiles. Then the bread fell. I started to cry then. I could not help it. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "It's for my sister. She's sick." But Mr. Patel was just so angry. He called the police. And they came so fast. Now I was here. In the rain. And this strange, old man was yelling at the cops. He looked like the men who slept in the park. His clothes were torn. He smelled like the rain and something else, something sad. But his eyes, they were not like the other men's eyes. They were bright. They were not crazy. They were strong. He was looking at me like he knew me. I did not know him. I had never seen him before. Why was he helping me? Why did he care if I went to jail? Everyone else just walked by. They saw the lights and they pulled their coats tight and walked faster. They did not want to see. But this man, he walked right into the lights. I was just getting it from my sister, I said. My voice was a tiny whisper against the storm. I was talking to him, to the old man. I wanted him to know. I was not a bad kid. I was not. The police officers looked at each other. The tall one, his name tag said, Miller, he let go of my arm. The old man kept staring at me. He had white hair, all wet and stuck to his face. He looked like he had not eaten in a long time. Just like me. Maybe he knew what it felt like. Maybe he understood what it was like to have a big, empty hole in your stomach. And a bigger, emptier hole in your heart because you could not help. One of the officers, the shorter one, looked at me. Son, is that true? Your sister is sick. I nodded. I could not speak. The lump in my throat was too big. She hasn't eaten all day, I managed to say. She's trying. I did not want them to think my mom was bad. She was the best mom. She was just tired. So tired. The old man, Arthur, he closed his eyes for a second. He looked like he was in pain. Not from the cold. A different kind of pain. A pain deep inside. When he opened his eyes, he looked right at Officer Miller. He did not look like a homeless man anymore. He looked like someone else. He's a child, the old man said. His voice was quiet now, but it was so strong. He's not a criminal. He's a hungry kid trying to be a hero. You know it. I know it. Officer Miller looked at his partner. He looked at me and the handcuffs. He sighed. It was a long, heavy sigh. He was a cop. I had stolen something. That was the rule. I broke the rule. But the old man was not talking about rules. He was talking about something else. About being hungry. About being scared. About trying to help someone you love. He was talking about things that rules do not always understand. I looked at the old man. His eyes were still on me. There was sadness in them, so much sadness. But there was kindness, too. A kindness I had not seen from a stranger in a very long time. He was a complete stranger. A man with nothing. And he was standing in the freezing rain, fighting for me. But he did not know me. He did not know Mia. He did not know my mom. He just saw a boy in trouble. And he stopped. He did not walk by. He did not turn away. He stepped in. He used his voice for me. I was just a thief. But he was making me feel like I was something more. I watched him. This man named Arthur. He looked so old, but his eyes were alive. He looked at me, and it was like he was searching for something. Searching my face. He whispered a name. David. I did not know anyone named David. I told him, what? But he just kept looking. It was a strange look. It made me feel warm, even in the cold rain. It was like he was looking at me, but seeing someone else at the same time. Someone he missed. Someone he loved. I was just Michael, the boy who stole bread. But for 1 second, this strange, sad man made me feel like I mattered. I stood there, my feet frozen to the pavement. But I did not feel the cold. I felt the boy's words. She's sick. We didn't have any food. These simple, terrible words. They were not an excuse. They were the truth. I looked at Officer Miller. His hand was off his belt now. He was just a man in a uniform, looking at a problem he did not know how to solve. I had to make him understand. I had to make him see what I saw. I was not Arthur Pendleton, the CO, anymore. I was not Arthur, the ghost. I was just a man. A man who knew what it meant to lose everything. And I would not let this boy lose his future over a loaf of bread. Officer, I said. My voice was different. The gravel was gone. It was quiet, but it cut through the sound of the rain. You have a choice right now. Officer Miller frowned. A choice? The law is the law, old man. The store owner pressed charges. His partner, the shorter one, Officer Harris, looked nervous. He kept looking from me to Michael. The law, I repeated. I almost laughed, but it was a sad sound. Is the law for hungry children? Is it for boys who try to feed their sick sisters? Or is it for men who make real mistakes? Men who hurt people they love? Men who run away? I was talking about myself, but they did not know that. Officer Miller's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? What do you know about real mistakes? He looked at me. He saw my rags. He saw the alley. It did not make sense to him. I know, I said, that some crimes are crimes of the heart, and some are crimes of the stomach. This boy, his stomach is empty, but his heart is full. He was not stealing for himself. He was stealing for his family. Is that the kind of criminal you want to put in a cage? I pointed at the metal cuffs on Michael's tiny wrists. Those cuffs, they are for men who want to hurt, not for boys who want to help. My words were simple, but they were true. The other officer, Harris, finally spoke. His voice was respectful. Sir, he said to me, we understand. We do. We see this every day. But what do you want us to do? Just let him go? The store owner is waiting. I cut him off, but gently. Go back to the store owner. Talk to him. Tell him what the boy said. Tell him you met a crazy old man in the rain who is begging you to be kind. But first, take those cuffs off him. Please. I was not yelling now. I was begging. But it was a strong plea. It was a father's plea, though I did not yet understand why I felt that way. Michael watched. He stood so still, he looked like a small statue. Only his eyes moved back and forth, from me to Officer Miller. He was breathing fast. He saw the change. He saw the big, angry policemen stop being angry. They were listening. They were listening to a homeless man. To me. A little bit of the fear left his face. It was replaced by something else. A tiny, fragile thing. It was hope. He did not know who I was. I was just a shadow. But I was his shadow. I was standing between him and the dark. He straightened his small shoulders just a little. He was trying to be brave, just like me. "Look," I said. "I had no money. I had nothing to offer. Nothing except myself. I have nothing. You can see that. I cannot pay for the bread. But I will work. I will clean Mr. Patel's store. I will sweep his floors. I will take out his trash. Let me pay for the boy's crime. Let me take his place." I put my own wrists out. They were thin and dirty, shaking in the cold. "Arrest me. I am interfering. That is a crime. Arrest me instead. Please." I held my hands out, waiting for the cold metal. I meant it. Every word. Both officers stared at me. Officer Miller looked like I had slapped him. "You want us to arrest you?" he stammered. "Instead of him?" He looked at my thin, shaking hands held out for the cuffs. He looked at my face, wet with rain and tears. I did not know I was crying. That's not how this works." "Why not?" I asked, my voice breaking. "The law needs to punish someone, right? Punish me. I am old. My life is over. His life is just beginning. Do not let it begin in the back of your car. Do not let this night be the night that makes him hard. Let this night be the night he learned that someone cared." Officer Harris, the younger one, took a step toward Michael. He had a key in his hand. He looked at his partner, Officer Miller. He was asking for permission, without a word. Miller did not say yes. But he did not say no. He just stood there, his face a mask of conflict. He was a good cop. I could see it. He wanted to follow the rules. But he was also a good man. He wanted to do what was right. And the rules and the right thing were fighting a war inside him. The rain was getting softer now, as if the sky itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what he would do. "Please," I whispered again. "He's just a boy." Finally, Officer Miller gave a small, sharp nod. Just once. It was all Harris needed. He moved quickly. He put the key in the lock on Michael's handcuffs. There was a click. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. Louder and more final than the snap from before. The metal fell away from Michael's small wrists. He did not move. He just stared at his hands, rubbing the red marks. He looked up at me. His eyes were wide, shining in the flashing lights. He could not believe it. I could not believe it either. I felt my legs get weak. The fire that had held me up was fading, replaced by a deep, deep exhaustion. "All right," Officer Miller said. His voice was tired but kind. "No one is going to jail tonight. Not you," he said to me, "and not you," he said to Michael. "But we are not done." He looked at Michael, his face serious but not mean. "We are taking you home, son. We need to talk to your mother. And we need to go see Mr. Patel. You have to apologize." Then he looked at me. "And you, old man, you're coming with us. I don't know who you are. But you're a part of this now. Let's get out of this rain." He opened the back door of the police car. Not to arrest us, but to give us shelter. The back of the police car was warm. It was the first time I had been warm in. I could not remember how long. The plastic seat was hard, but the dry air felt good. Michael sat next to me. He was so small. He kept his hands in his lap, staring at the red marks on his wrists. He did not look at me. He just sat in silence, a little drip of water falling from his hair onto his jacket. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell him it would be okay. But I had no right. What did I know about things being okay? I was the man who had broken everything. So I just sat there, breathing in the warm air, and watched the rainy city go by. Officer Miller drove. He kept looking at me in the rearview mirror. His eyes were not hard anymore. They were curious. Puzzled. I was a puzzle he could not solve. I was a homeless man who spoke with authority. I was a ghost who offered to go to jail for a boy I did not know. He had seen the world. He thought he had seen everything. Drunks, thieves, liars. But he had never seen this. I could see the doubt in his eyes. He was doubting his world. He was doubting the line between good and bad, the line he lived his life on. He looked at me, then at Michael, then back at the road. He was thinking hard. The other officer, Harris, was quiet. He was younger. I could see in his face that he was affected. He had been ready to be kind. He was the one who unlocked the cuffs. He believed Michael's story. He believed me. Maybe he was new enough to still have a soft heart. Or maybe he just knew truth when he heard it. He turned in his seat a little. "Kid," he said, his voice gentle. "Michael, where do you live? We have to talk to your mom." Michael flinched, like he was waking up from a dream. Just 2 blocks over. On Maple Street. His voice was a whisper. He was scared again. Scared of what his mom would say. First, we stopped at the store. The lights were still bright, shining out onto the wet sidewalk. "Let's get this over with," Officer Miller said. He did not sound angry. He just sounded tired. We all got out. The rain was just a light mist now. Mr. Patel was waiting inside, pacing by the counter. When he saw us, his face got dark. "There he is," he shouted, pointing a finger at Michael. "You brought the thief back." Michael stepped back. He hid a little behind my torn coat. It was a small movement, but it felt like he trusted me. He was hiding behind me. My heart did a strange, painful flip. I put my hand on Michael's shoulder. It was so thin. I stood tall. Taller than I had in years. "He is not a thief," I said to Mr. Patel. My voice was clear and steady. It did not shake. Officer Miller stepped forward. "Mr. Patel," he said, holding up a hand. "Let's calm down. The boy, he told us his sister is sick. He has no food at home. He took bread. And an orange. He left the candy." Mr. Patel stopped. He looked at Officer Miller, surprised. The cop was defending the boy? This was not what he expected. He looked from the officer to me, the crazy old man, and then to Michael, who was peeking out from behind me. "His sister?" Mr. Patel said. His anger was fading, turning into confusion. "Is this true, boy?" Michael nodded. He stepped out from behind me. His face was pale, but he was not crying. "Yes, sir. Her name is Mia. She has a fever. We had no food. I was wrong." "I'm so sorry, Mr. Patel. I know you work hard. I was just scared." He spoke the truth. It was simple and it was pure. You could hear it. It was not a lie a kid made up to get out of trouble. It was the heavy, sad truth. The seed of doubt, the one I saw in the officers, it was here in the store too. It was landing on Mr. Patel. I spoke again. "I offered to the officers, and I offer to you," I said. "I will pay his debt. I have no money, but I have time. I will clean your store. I will mop your floors tonight. I will stack your shelves. I will do whatever you need. Let the boy go home to his sister. Punish me." Mr. Patel stared at me. He had probably seen me in the alley 100 times. A piece of trash. A problem to be ignored. But he was not seeing that now. He was seeing someone different. He saw my eyes. He saw I meant it. "You would do that? For him? You don't even know him." "I know what it is to be hungry," I said. Mr. Patel looked at Michael. He looked at the bread and the orange, still on the counter where Michael had dropped them. He looked at me standing there, offering to work for free. He was a businessman. But he was also a man. He let out a long, slow breath. The anger was all gone. "A sick sister," he mumbled. He had kids. I could see a drawing taped to his register, a bright, colorful drawing of a son, signed by Anita. He understood family. This is not a good thing, boy. Stealing is wrong. Always." "I know, sir. I promise," Michael whispered, looking at the floor. There was a long silence. Just the hum of the refrigerators. Officer Miller did not say anything. He let the silence work. He was letting Mr. Patel make the choice. This was not about the law anymore. This was about people. Mr. Patel rubbed his face. "Okay," he said. "No police. I won't press charges. Not this time." Michael looked up, his eyes wide. "Really? Really?" Mr. Patel said. "But wait." He walked from behind the counter. He took the bread. He took the orange. And then, he grabbed a can of chicken soup from the shelf. And a small box of crackers. He put them all in a paper bag. He pushed the bag into Michael's hands. "For your sister," he said. His voice was rough, but his eyes were kind. "You tell her to feel better. And you, boy, you do not steal again. You are hungry, you come to me. You ask. You sweep the floor for me. But you do not steal. Understand? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I promise. Michael clutched the bag like it was gold. Mr. Patel looked at me. And you, old man? I don't need my floors cleaned. Just keep an eye on him. He nodded at me, a look of new respect in his eyes. The seed of doubt had grown. It had turned into a can of soup. We walked out of the store. Michael held the brown paper bag in two hands. He did not let it go. It was quiet as we walked. The police car followed us slowly, its lights off now, the engine a low hum. It was like they were not cops, but guardians watching over us. We walked down Maple Street. The buildings were old, the brick dark and tired. I knew this part of town. It was where people lived when they had nowhere else to go. It was a step above my alley, but not by much. I saw a broken window, covered with cardboard. I saw a toy truck, missing a wheel, lying on its side near a set of stairs. Michael stopped at a green door. Apartment 3B. The paint was peeling. He looked at the door. He was afraid to go in. He was afraid to face his mother. He looked up at me, his eyes big and worried. She's going to be so mad. I put my hand on his shoulder again. It's okay, son. You have food. And you told the truth. That's what matters. Officer Miller and Officer Harris got out of their car. They stood on the sidewalk, giving us a little space. They were letting us handle this first. They were good men. They understood this was a family moment. But I did not know yet how much of a family moment it was. I nodded to Michael. Go on. We are right here with you. He took a deep, shaky breath. He put the bag of food down for a second, and he used his small key to unlock the door. The door creaked open. It was dark inside. It smelled like sickness. A faint, sad smell. Mom! Michael called out. His voice was a tiny sound in the dark. Mom? I'm home. A light clicked on. It was a dim, yellow light from a lamp on a table. And a woman stood in the small hallway. She was thin, so thin. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. Her eyes were red. She looked like she had been crying for 100 years. She saw the police officers on the sidewalk behind us. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh no! Michael! What happened? What did you do? Her voice was full of panic. She rushed forward and grabbed Michael's arms. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm okay, Mom. I did something bad. I stole food. But I'm okay. The police... He helped me. Michael pointed. He pointed at me. The woman, Michael's mother, finally looked at me. She had been so focused on Michael and the police, she had not seen the shadow standing next to her son. She looked at me, standing in the dim light of her doorway. Her eyes, they were a pale, tired blue. She looked at my face. She looked at my torn coat. She looked at my matted hair. At first, there was just confusion. Why was this homeless man with her son? Then her eyes got wide. Very, very wide. Her whole body went stiff. The hand at her mouth started to tremble. She was not looking at me. She was looking into me. She was seeing something I thought was dead. She was seeing the man I used to be. She was seeing the ghost of Arthur Pendleton. Her face went white. All the blood drained from it. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Because she had. No, she whispered. It was not a word. It was just a puff of air. It can't be. She took one step back. Then another. She knew me. She knew me. This was not a stranger. But how? Who was she? I searched my memory, the locked box in my mind. The face of my son, David. The face of my wife, Sarah. This woman, she was younger. But her eyes, I had seen them before. In a photograph. A photograph David had shown me so long ago. This is Emily, Dad, he had said, his face shining with pride. The woman I'm going to marry. Emily. My son's wife. My daughter-in-law. My breath caught in my chest. It was like being punched. Emily. David's Emily. This was her. And if this was Emily, then Michael, this boy, he had my wife's mole. He had my son's eyes. He was, oh God, he was David's son. He was my grandson. The word hit me. Grandson. I had a grandson. I had been standing next to my own blood. I had been fighting for my own family. The boy I saw. The face in the rain. It was not a coincidence. It was not a trick of my mind. It was him. It was my Michael. I stumbled. I put my hand against the door frame to hold myself up. My legs were gone. Emily was shaking her head, tears streaming down her face now. "Mr. Pendleton?" she whispered. Her voice was full of shock and a terrible old pain. "Arthur? We thought you were dead. We looked for you. David, he looked for years. Oh my God." Michael was completely lost. He looked at his mother. He looked at me. "Mom? You know him? You know Arthur?" He called me Arthur. He did not know my full name. He just knew the name the officers had used. He did not understand. How could he? I did not understand. My world was tilting. The dark hallway was spinning. "Mr. Pendleton," Emily said again. She was crying, her hands covering her face. I could not speak. I could not move. I just stared at her. My son's wife. And then, from a room in the back, a small, weak voice called out. "Mommy? Who is it? Is Michael home?" It was a little girl's voice. Mia. My granddaughter. I had a granddaughter too. I had a family. The family I had thrown away. The family I had abandoned. A family that was sick and hungry and living in this dark, sad apartment. And they thought I was dead. I had let them believe I was dead. The police officers, Miller and Harris, were frozen on the sidewalk. They were watching this. They heard her name for me. "Mr. Pendleton?" This changed everything. I was not just a homeless man. I was someone. I was their someone. I looked at Michael. He was staring at me, his mouth open, his eyes wide with a million questions. He was trying to put the pieces together. His mom knew this man. This man who saved him. This man who looked like a ghost. And he had my son's face. The face I had tried to forget. The face I now knew I would never, ever forget again. I was his grandfather. The name. Mr. Pendleton. It hit me like a stone. It was a name from another life, a name I had buried. A name that belonged to a man with a suit, a car, and a family. Emily, my son's wife, said it. Her eyes were wide, full of ghosts. And I looked at Michael. My grandson. The boy I had shouted for. It was not a coincidence. It was not a dream. It was my blood. My family. My son's son. And I was standing in front of him in rags, smelling like the street. The man who had everything. Now, a man who was less than nothing. A man who had failed so completely he did not even recognize his own flesh and blood. The shame. Before, in the alley, I felt shame for my failure. But this was a new kind of shame. It was a fire that burned my skin. I had run away. I had told myself it was to protect them. To spare them from my failure. I was a coward. I ran so I would not have to see the disappointment in their eyes. But I had not spared them. I had abandoned them. Look at this place. Look at my daughter-in-law, thin as a rail. Look at my grandson, who had to steal bread. I did not save them from my failure. I had left them to starve in the middle of it. This was my true crime. All I could see was David, my son. His face so full of life. He was a good man. A better man than I ever was. I remembered him showing me a picture of Emily. "Dad, she's the one." He was so happy. He believed in me. Even when things got bad, when the money was gone, he was the one who said, "We can fix this, Dad. We're a family. We can fix it." He had faith. But I had none. I saw his faith as a burden. I could not stand to see him try to fix the unfixable. I could not stand to be his broken hero. So I ran. I ran from the only person who still believed in me. "We thought you were dead." Emily's words cut through my thoughts. They were quiet, but they were sharper than a knife. "David, he looked for years. He spent every last cent he had trying to find you." My heart stopped. He looked for me. I had imagined them moving on. Forgetting me. Starting a new, better life without the failure, without the weight of my name. But he had searched. He had wasted his time, his money, his life, looking for a father who was hiding in an alley just 5 miles away. I thought I was a ghost. But I was a monster. I had haunted him. I looked at Michael, my grandson. He was still holding the paper bag. He had his father's eyes. He had David's stubborn chin. He was my son, born again in this small, brave boy. And I was his grandfather. A grandfather who let him get arrested. A grandfather who did not even know his name. A grandfather who had been sleeping on cardboard while his own family was hungry. The love I felt, it was so big, so sudden it was painful. It was a father's love, a grandfather's love, and it was all mixed up with this terrible, crushing guilt. I had missed his whole life. I had missed all of it. I saw the two police officers, Miller and Harris. They were standing by the door, frozen. They were not cops anymore. They were witnesses. They had heard Emily. They heard Mr. Pendleton. They heard David looked for years. They were watching the pieces click together. They saw me, the filthy homeless man. And they saw her, the crying mother. They understood. This was not a story about a shoplifter. This was a story about a family that had been blown apart. A story about a man who had fallen from the sky and landed in the gutter. And I was that man. My secret, my shame, it was all out. Emily's face changed. The shock was fading. Now, something else was there. A deep, cold anger. She took a step toward me. "Why?" she whispered. It was a hiss. "Why are you here? You left us. You left him. He needed you. He..." Her voice broke, and a terrible sob tore out of her. "He needed you. And you were here? In this city? All this time?" She was right. I had no answer. There was no good answer. I was ashamed, I whispered. It sounded so weak. So pathetic. "Ashamed?" she cried. "Ashamed? David, he died, Arthur. He died last year. He died looking for you." The word. It did not make sense. It was just a sound. David. My son. My boy. He was young. He was strong. He could not be no. But Emily's face, she was not lying. The pain in her eyes was real. My son was dead. He was gone. He had died. And he had died, looking for me. The hope I felt, that tiny spark from the alley, it was gone. Snatched away. It was replaced by a black, empty cold. A cold worse than any winter night in the alley. He was gone. Forever. I could never say I was sorry. I could never make it right. I could never see him again. My legs finally gave out. The strength that had held me up, the anger, the hope, it all evaporated. I slid down the wall, landing on my knees on the dirty floor of the hallway. I was not a man. I was just a pile of regrets. A pile of wet, dirty rags. My son was dead. I was a failure. I was a coward. I was a terrible, terrible father. I had run away to save him from my shame, and instead, I had just missed him. I missed his life. And I had missed his death. I put my hands over my face. I could not breathe. I was drowning. Michael, my grandson, he did not understand. He did not know what Mr. Pendleton meant. He did not know David was his father. He just saw me, the man who had helped him, fall apart. He dropped the bag of food. The can of soup rolled out, making a loud, hollow sound on the floor. He rushed to me. "Arthur? Sir? What's wrong?" He put his small, warm hand on my shoulder. The same shoulder I had touched. He was trying to comfort me. This brave, hungry, beautiful boy. My son's son. He was trying to help the man who had destroyed his entire family. And that was the thing that finally broke me. I began to sob. Michael's small hand was on my shoulder. "Arthur? Sir? What's wrong?" He was scared. His voice was trembling. He had just been arrested, and now his mom was screaming, and the man who saved him was crying on the floor. His world was turning upside down. "Mom?" he said, his voice high. "What is happening? Who is he? You said Dad. You said his name was David." He was smart. He was putting it together. He remembered the name I had whispered in the alley. He looked at me, then at his mother, his eyes wide with a question he was too afraid to ask. Emily, his mother, my daughter-in-law, wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her face was hard. Hard with grief. Hard with all the years she had spent alone. "Michael, she said, her voice shaking but strong. This man, his name is Arthur Pendleton. He was your father's father. He is your grandfather. The word hung in the air. Grandfather. Michael's hand flew from my shoulder like he had been burned. He stumbled back, his eyes locked on me. The dirty man from the alley. The ghost. I was his grandfather? I was the man his father, David, had told him about. The one who was lost. He stared at me. I could see the confusion in his eyes. It was a storm. He was trying to see the grandfather his dad had loved in this broken thing on the floor. He saw my torn clothes. He saw the dirt on my hands. This was not a grandfather. This was a bum. This was the man from the alley. No, Michael whispered. That's not true. My grandfather. Dad said he was smart. He was important. He looked at his mom, begging her to say it was a lie. But Emily just cried. He was baby. He was. This is what's left. Her words were so cruel and so true. I was what was left. The two police officers, Miller and Harris, had been standing at the door. They were silent. But now they moved. They were not cops anymore. They were just men. Officer Miller stepped inside the dark hallway. "Ma'am," he said, his voice was soft, respectful. "Mrs. Pendleton. Maybe we should all sit down. Let's get out of the hallway." Officer Harris moved to. He bent down and picked up the can of chicken soup that had rolled across the floor. He picked up the loaf of bread. He held the small paper bag, a simple bag that had started this whole terrible night. He held it out to Emily. A silent offering. Emily looked at the bag. She looked at Officer Harris. She nodded, her body shaking. She led the way into a tiny living room. There was one sofa, one chair. And in the corner, on a small cot, was a little girl. She was buried under a thin blanket. This was Mia, my granddaughter. She was so small. Her face was pale, her eyes closed. She was sleeping. She was the reason Michael had risked everything. Emily pointed to the one chair. "Please," she said to me. I did not move. I could not. I did not deserve to sit. I deserved to stay on the cold, dirty floor. "Sit," Officer Miller said. It was not a request. It was a kind command. I sat. My body was heavy, like it was full of wet sand. Emily sat on the sofa. Michael did not sit. He stood by the wall as far from me as he could get. He was watching me, his arms crossed tight. He was protecting himself. "He died," Emily said, her voice flat. She was talking to me but looking at the wall. "David. He died last year. A lung infection. It got bad so fast." She paused, taking a ragged breath. "He never gave up looking for you, Arthur. After you left, he looked everywhere. He spent all his money. The money we were supposed to use for a house. He used it all on private detectives. On posters. He thought you were hurt. Or had lost your memory." I closed my eyes. He had loved me. He had loved me that much. I thought I was a burden. But I was his father. My shame had been my pride. I was too proud to be a failure. And my pride, my stupid, worthless pride, it had cost my son everything. "He worked himself to death," Emily continued, her voice breaking again. "He got a job at the factory. Night shifts. Double shifts. Trying to pay for the detectives. Trying to pay rent. Trying to feed Michael. The dust. The doctor said the dust in the factory, it got in his lungs. He got sick. And he wouldn't rest. He just kept working. He kept looking. Until he just couldn't anymore." She was not just telling me a story. She was handing me the bill. This was what I had cost. The price for my escape. It was my son's life. The full picture. It was a masterpiece of pain. And I was the artist. I was the one who had painted it. Michael was crying now. Silent tears. He was listening to his mother tell the story of his father's death. A story he knew. But now he knew the why. The man his father was looking for, the man who was the reason for all of it, was sitting in his living room, smelling of trash. He looked at me, and his eyes, they were not a child's eyes anymore. They were old. They were full of his father's pain. "Mommy." The small voice came from the cot. Mia was awake. Mommy, I'm cold. Emily gasped, startled out of her story. She rushed to her daughter's side. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Michael's home. He brought you soup. She took the bag from Officer Harris. She pulled out the can. Mia's eyes, pale and sick, looked at the can. Then her eyes moved. They found me. They found the stranger in the chair. Who's that? She whispered. Michael, my grandson, spoke. His voice was cold. Colder than the rain. Colder than my alley. That's nobody, he said, his eyes locked on mine. He's just a man. He's nobody. I deserved that. I deserved every word. I was nobody. I was a father who ran. I was a grandfather who was a stranger. I had no name. I had no right to be here. I had no right to breathe the same air as these children, my son's children. I looked at Emily. I had to say it. I had to give her the only thing I had left. The truth. Emily, I whispered. My voice was broken. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know he was dead. I didn't know about any of this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was not just apologizing to her. I was apologizing to the ghost of my son. I was apologizing to the 2 small children he had left behind. He's nobody. The words were like a hammer. They hit me, but I did not break. I was already broken. He was right. I was nobody. I was a ghost who had come into their home and brought all my pain with me. I was the reason his father was gone. I was the reason his sister was sick. I was the reason he had handcuffs on his wrists. I looked at the floor, at the dirt I had tracked in. I did not belong here. I had no right. I was a disease. The silence in the small apartment was heavy, broken only by the sound of Mia coughing, a dry, weak sound. Officer Miller, the tall one, cleared his throat. He looked at Emily, his face full of a sadness that was not part of his job. Ma'am, Mrs. Pendleton, he said, his voice quiet. This is a lot. But right now, that little girl needs to eat. He nodded toward Mia, who was watching us all with big, feverish eyes. And she needs a doctor. He was bringing everyone back to the present. Back to the small problem of the bread, which was now part of this giant, terrible problem. He was a good man. He was trying to find a way to help. Officer Harris, who was still holding the bag, stepped forward. I can go back to the store, he said. Mr. Patel, he was kind. Maybe he has some medicine. For fever. He looked at Emily. And ma'am, we have a program. A fund. For families. I can make a call. We can get you some real groceries. Tonight. Emily looked up, shocked. She was not used to help. She was used to fighting alone. You would do that? Yes, ma'am, he said. He looked at me, then at Michael. It's the least we can do. No child should be hungry. Michael watched the officers. He had called me nobody. But these policemen were here because of me. They were not arresting him. They were helping. They were offering food. They were talking about a doctor for Mia. His anger was still there, a hot, hard ball in his stomach. But it was confused. The man who ruined his life was also the man who had just saved him from jail. He looked at the floor. He was caught between hating me for the past and something else for the present. He did not know what to feel. So he just stood there, watching, silent. I had to do something. I could not just sit here. I could not run away. Not again. I had run away from my shame. I would not run away from my son's family. I stood up. My legs were shaking. Everyone looked at me. Emily flinched. Michael tensed, ready for me to what? To leave? To yell? I did not look at them. I looked at Mia, the little girl on the cot. My granddaughter. She was so small. She was sick. I walked over to her. Slowly. I knelt on the floor beside her bed. I was still dirty. I was still a mess. But I was here. Mia watched me. She was not afraid. She was just tired. Her eyes were dull with fever. You're the man from the door, she whispered. Her voice was like a tiny bell. I am, I whispered back. I looked at my hand. It was cracked and black with dirt. I could not touch her. I could not. But I had to. I reached out very slowly. I did not touch her skin. I just gently touched the edge of the thin, worn-out blanket. I pulled it up a little to cover her shoulder. It was a small, useless gesture, but it was all I had. Emily watched me. I heard her take a sharp breath. She was ready to tell me to get away from her daughter. I braced for it. I deserved it. Don't. She started, but she stopped. She saw my hand shaking as it touched the blanket. She saw the tears rolling down my face again. I was not a threat. I was not a monster. I was just a very, very sad old man. I was her husband's father. I was the only piece of David she had left in the world, besides her children. Her anger was still there, but under it, a deep, ocean-sized sadness. We were two people who had lost the same man. Officer Miller nodded to his partner. Harris, go make that call. I'll wait outside. Give them a minute. He looked at Emily. Mrs. Pendleton, we are going to get you help. I promise. He dipped his hat. A sign of respect. He looked at me, kneeling on the floor. His eyes said, don't mess this up. This is your one chance. Then he turned and walked out the door, closing it quietly behind him. Officer Harris was already on his radio. The red and blue lights were gone. The only sound was the rain, which was stopping. It was just a soft tapping on the window now. The room was quiet again. Just the three of us. And Mia. Michael looked at the bag of food. He looked at his sister. He looked at his mother, who was sitting on the sofa, her face in her hands. He walked over to the bag. He picked up the can of chicken soup. He did not look at me. He walked past me, to the tiny kitchen I could see in the corner. I heard him open a drawer. I heard the clink of a spoon. He was going to feed his sister. He was being the man of the house. He was being his father's son. He was being David. Michael came back with a small bowl and a spoon. He sat on the floor on the other side of Mia's bed. He was trying to open the can. He was clumsy, his hands were small and shaking. Here, I said. My voice was a croak. I held out my hand. He looked at me. His eyes were still cold, still full of pain. He hated me, but his sister was hungry. He hesitated. Then, he pushed the can into my hand. He did not say anything. He just gave me the can. It was not forgiveness. It was not a new beginning. But it was not nobody. It was a start. It was a single, tiny, heavy can of soup. My hands were shaking. They were so dirty. But Michael had given me the can. It was a test. It was a first, tiny step. I took the small metal tab and I pulled. The sound of the tin lid ripping open was so loud in the tiny, quiet room. It was the sound of a seal breaking. The sound of something new beginning. I handed the can back to Michael. He did not look at me. He just took it, his small fingers brushing mine. For 1 second, it was not a can of soup. It was a bridge. A thin, metal, fragile bridge. He poured the soup into the bowl and took it to the kitchen. Emily, my son's widow, got up. She moved like she was in a dream. She turned on the small stove. The click-click-click of the burner trying to light was the only sound. Then, a small whoosh of blue flame. She poured the soup into a small pot. I watched her. I watched my grandson, Michael, stand next to her, holding the spoon. He was watching the soup. I was watching them. I was watching the family I had thrown away. The smell of the chicken soup, cheap and tinny, started to fill the room. To me, it smelled like forgiveness. It smelled like the first warm thing in a very, very long time. Mia, my granddaughter, sat up a little. Is it for me? She whispered. Yes, baby, Emily said, her voice thick. It's for you. When it was warm, Emily poured it back into the bowl. Michael took it. He was the man of the house. He walked over to his sister's bed. He sat on the floor. He held the spoon. He blew on the hot soup, just like his father, my David, must have done for him. It's hot, Mia. Be careful. He fed her the first spoonful. She sipped it. A little color came back to her face. She smiled. Just a small, weak smile. But it was like the sun coming out. Officer Harris came back. He was not alone. He had 2 big bags of groceries. Real food. Bread. Eggs. A bag of oranges. Pasta. The program, it's called the Officers Community Fund, he said, putting the bags on the small kitchen counter. And a doctor is on the way to check on Mia. Free of charge. Emily stood up, her hand over her mouth. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Don't thank me, Harris said. He looked at me. Thank him. He's the one who shouted. He's the one who made us stop and look. He was giving me credit. He was telling my family that I had done something good. The doctor came. He was kind. He checked Mia. He said she had a bad flu, and she was weak from not eating. But the food and some medicine would make her better. She would be okay. The storm was passing. Inside the apartment, and outside in the world. When the doctor left, Officer Miller, who had been waiting, stepped back in. He looked at me. Mr. Pendleton, he said, this is your family. This is your second chance. Don't waste it. He did not arrest me. He did not take me to a shelter. He trusted me to do the right thing. For the first time in so many years, someone trusted me. When they were gone, it was just us. The silence was back. I should go, I said. I started to stand up. Where? Emily asked. Her voice was not angry. It was just empty. Where will you go? Back to the alley? I looked at my hands. I don't know. Michael, who had been watching me, spoke. His voice was quiet. You can't. It's cold. He did not look at me. He was looking at his sister, who was asleep now, her stomach full. Hey, the sofa, he said. It's not much. But it's warmer than the alley. It was not an invitation. It was a fact. But it was everything. I sat on that sofa all night. I did not sleep. I just listened. I listened to the sound of my granddaughter breathing. I listened to my grandson, who had made a bed on the floor next to his mother's. I listened to the sounds of a family. My family. I was not Arthur Pendleton, the seal. I was not Arthur, the ghost. I was just a man. A man who had been given a gift he did not deserve. A gift bought by my son, David. His love. His death. He had left me his family. He had left me his purpose. My son had saved me. The next day, I got a job. I washed dishes at a small diner. The owner, he knew Mr. Patel. He had heard the story. He gave me a chance. I worked. I worked harder than I ever did in my big, glass office. I saved my money. I got a small room. I bought new clothes. And every night I would come and sit on that sofa. At first, Michael would not talk to me. Then one day he asked me to help him with his homework. I still knew math. A new bridge. Stronger this time. We talked about David. We cried. Emily and I, we cried for the man we both loved so much. We were not a broken family. We were a new family, built from the broken pieces. That shout in the rain. It was not just a shout for Michael. It was a shout for me. It was my soul lost in the dark, shouting, I'm still here. I'm alive. It was the legacy of my son, David, calling me home. It was a single moment that changed everything. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many moments like this do we miss? How many times do we see someone in the rain, a stranger in trouble, and just walk by? How many stories are lost because no one was there to shout or to listen? We tell these stories for a reason. Not just to remember, but to feel, to connect. These true stories are all around us. They are in the alleys and in our homes. They are the bridges that connect us to each other. When you find a story like this, one that makes your heart beat fast, one that reminds you that even in the darkest rain, a new beginning is possible, don't just keep it for yourself. Share it. Talk about it. Let it be the shout that wakes someone else up. We will keep looking for these moments, these connections. And we truly hope you will be here with us to see them.